Welcome to Boise Song Talk. I'm James Coverly Smith. Give me just a second to set this guitar down if you would, please. Thank you. Songs. What we're going to be doing on Boise Song Talk is we're going to be speaking with a number of the great local songwriters about how they write their songs. Now, they're all great live performers, and I encourage you to go out and see their live shows. However, we will not be emphasizing performance here. Instead, we'll be focusing on how they write their songs. Now, I'm going to start this thing out with a shortened version of a song of my own. Then we're going to go over and meet tonight's special guest. It was there on the cover of Scandal Annual. Leading lady had become a cannibal. Men in styrofoam suits caught fire and the president's limo picked up a hitchhiker. Facts are optional. Facts are optional. Two-lane traffic line, a one-way street. People meeting people they don't want to meet. Scrutinize the difference till everyone's alone, working jigsaw puzzles in the twilight zone. Facts are optional. Facts are optional. 3 steps of mercy, the hero holds his breath, reaches back for just 1 ounce of tenderness. 3 steps of mercy, up and down the line, digging for some truth, but all he seems to find is that the facts are optional. Facts are optional. Facts are optional. Now, let's go over and meet tonight's special guest, Mr. Thomas Paul.
How you doing, James?
Excellent, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Put her there, buddy boy.
It's good to be back in my old neighborhood.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I used to live about 2 doors down from here. So
you did, huh?
This is a trip down memory lane. Thanks.
Is that right? Really? You live this close?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
No wonder you're so comfortable here.
Oh, yeah, this is my hood.
Shoot. All right, my friend. Trying to describe what you do is very difficult for me.
Tell me about it.
Well, you're going to tell me about it.
I'm going to try.
Yes, you are. But if I had to try and pick some things out, some of the things that I think when I think about you is you make brilliant use of musical dissonance.
Thank you.
In your melodies and etc. I think you're a great producer. Your albums to me are like textured musical landscapes. I mean, it's the type of album that I really like to listen to from start to finish.
Cool.
Because the way it goes from song to song is really, really something else.
Thank you. We worked really hard on that. Kind of, it's not just a pile of songs. A lot of them are meant to kind of segue into each other and stuff.
I can see it.
So,
I can see it.
Thank you.
Absolutely true. You also play many musical instruments. And the other thing that I think about with you is you make the rare and excellent use of falsetto. A lot of people don't. So, why don't you give me some sense of how your musical beginnings?
Well, I started out as a young kid just kind of picking up on some family musical traditions, a lot of bluegrass and stuff in the family, a lot of harmony singing. A lot of my folks and stuff were in like a family band. I spent a lot of time around my grandmother, and she was just a really devoted music lover. And there's always a piano around and instruments here and there against the wall. And so running around at 4 or 5, I started banging on a piano and listening to my relatives sing harmony and stuff, and it seemed to feel pretty natural to sing and to play. And picked up the guitar about 11 or 12, and of course got into like hard rock and heavy metal and things but never lost that love for just kind of harmony and the use of, like you mentioned, dissonance, kind of tension and release sometimes.
Yeah.
Notes that might not work together like by themselves, but then as they move away from each other or towards each other, that can have a different effect.
Right.
So
So you grew up in a very musical family. There was music all around.
I would say so.
Did you, and everyone was singing, did you start with a particular instrument first?
Just piano, I think. At messing around with that 5 or 6, I was sort of trying to pick out melodies, themes to TV shows and things on the piano, and I said, "Oh, look at the kid go! Get him a book or something. Get a little beginning piano book and kind of take off from there." And many guitar players in the family, so I'd pick it up and started trying to learn those first chords.
Right.
Caged, C A G E D, and kind of going from there.
Right.
And they said, well, he's beating the heck out of our guitars, we better get him his own so he doesn't bang our guitars up anymore, and kind of went from there.
Yeah. Very nice. And when did you start playing in bands or whatever?
I think in junior high we'd try and get 3 to 5 of us together in a garage with almost no success. First of all, no one's parents really, really want that around every weekend, so we'd move from house to house, garage to garage, shed to shed.
So you'd be playing electric then, of course.
Yeah, we had our first little amps and a little electric guitars and bad drum sets and things, and probably nothing to sing through at that point.
Right.
And we finally did get enough together to play a talent show, I think in 8th grade and 9th grade, and then finally started working on original music probably around 14, 15. 16.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's about that time, it's like early to mid 90s, so very influenced by this sort of Seattle things that are going on at that time, and a bunch of things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, would you like to play us a little Thomas Paul song
Sure,
here?
yeah. When you mention dissonance, I tend to think of a song that I've written called Benjamin, and it comes up a lot in these sorts of discussions, so just kind of started out one time, I can't even remember when, accidentally hit this chord, and your first instinct is to go, no, I don't think so, but I thought, well, what if it moved to a nicer chord? And so that sort of became the seed, and the lyrics are about more of just kind of a series of events that I've had with a close friend who's almost like a brother. So. You put me up on the tracks and set the natural light and let it fall through the cracks. For all of the times you were gone and all of the climbs you were on, and all those numbers, and all those numbers. That's just a short little version of it, but it's basically a 2-chord song. But
Is that right? See, now that's interesting.
but because of the kind of the dissonance to the non-dissonance, it seems like it's more, and that was never by design. It just sort of, it's a happy accident.
Well, this comes to something that you do so well. I didn't tune into that's a 2-chord song.
Right.
Because you use so many chords in your songs. I mean, you're packed full.
Yeah, probably, like, maybe on second listen, for me, I think, man, I could have left 1 or 2 of those out, but
But
it
see
makes
that,
for-
so we got that starting verse section, and then, okay.
yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. And then we go to what's the next part that happened?
When I went down here, it's another version of a chord that I've already played up here, just moved it lower for effect, and then earlier I was playing the melody up here.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Oh, I see. So you're just grabbing the melody and
Yeah.
playing it on the guitar.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
that's
harmonizing it
interesting.
underneath, it just sort of seemed the right way to do it. Like I said, it was never like by design. So, but that's a song that people ask a lot about.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd start with that.
Well, you have so many cool songs, and this is off of Waterloo.
Yeah, the most recent
A
record.
great album.
Thank you.
The thing that's so interesting for me now is to hear this raw on the guitar. I mean, I do hear you do it that way occasionally when I see you perform, but back to your production. Your production stuff is so rich and complex. When you're starting a song like that, given that you end up with, for example, I saw you on at the Egyptian with, there had to be 7 of you up there.
Yeah, we've had 7 or 8.
7 or 8,
people on
okay,
stage up
7
there.
or
Yeah,
8.
I can't remember.
The dang stage is full of musicians.
It's a lot of fun.
Right, but what can happen with most bands,
Yeah.
if they do that, it becomes a mash of sound.
Yeah.
In your case, they have parts. It's woven together. It's quite brilliant.
Thank you.
When you're starting a song like that, do you hear what it's going to be early, or does it happen through
Some.
experimentation?
Maybe some, but a lot of it's through experimentation. You know, I know a lot of great musicians in town, and it's kind of like thinking, well, why not have a cello? If you know a nice person with a cello that wants to play, like, why not have a flute or more percussion or background vocals? And we do, when we're working those things up, we do work hard to try and make sure that there's not a ton of overlap. If there's 2 guitars, they don't have to be playing the same thing. They can for like more force, but if they're slightly different, or like I try not to have the bass and the cello playing the same notes necessarily, even though they're kind of in this similar area. And yeah, we have a lot of fun arranging the stuff for the big band.
Okay, so it is basically then when you write a song, it develops into these great productions, I hear.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't necessarily start out with the whole small rock orchestra in mind. No,
Gotcha.
sometimes it's just as simple as starting with 2 chords and coming up with a couple of words to hold onto a melody. Definitely not starting out with the grand vision of the big showcase.
So back to the seed of the idea then, do you usually start it with an instrument?
Yeah, I would say like 90% of things start with a melody or a couple of chords, and I think that like makes one of my ears pick up. And I say, well, I don't want to forget that interesting little transition there. I got to come up with some little melody. And then I'll come up with words to not forget the melody, really. That's more often than not the method.
So then, if that's happening, you're sitting there and that's coming to you, how do you capture it so you won't forget it?
Boy, that's a good question. I think a lot of songs, and a lot of people could say this, a lot of songs have just kind of flown away while you weren't looking because you forget about them. You know, I have probably, and I have a comedian friend that does this too. I probably have a shoebox full of little scraps of paper, notebooks upon notebooks that are full of little ideas. Now in this day and age, you can really quickly, a lot of folks can record on their computer or their phone. So that's one way that some people are like,
oh yeah, that's right.
Nowadays, not losing ideas that way.
Right,
I haven't
right.
really taken a quick liking to that. If I got to set up a computer or something, that moment might dissipate.
Right.
So a lot of times, just furiously scribbled matchbooks, or cocktail napkin, or receipt from a restaurant, or who knows where you get the spark.
But those are lyrics you're talking about.
Either one.
Oh,
Lyrics
so you
notes.
are trained enough to be able to write your melody down?
Not
the chords or
necessarily
something?
not necessarily in a staff. I mean, I can,
Yeah.
but it'll be rough. But
Okay.
but more of just like I kind of draw it, almost in a graph form, which is sort of like writing out music. If I look at it, I can tell where it's going. But if somebody else looked at it, they'd be like, "What does this stack of letters mean?"
It's secret Thomas.
I don't
Thomas
know.
Paul
You know, everyone
code.
has their shorthand for things that I mean, around the office or something. A lot of people have little shorthands that they use.
Right.
So, and I think we've all developed little shortcuts and stuff to remember things.
Well, you feel like giving us another
Sure,
piece of something here?
Let me think of one here. This might be the first song off the same album. In fact, it is actually. Sarah never learned to say goodbye. Johnny never looks her in the eye. But they try, oh they try, to keep both hands inside the ride at all times. Is it better to leave or to be left behind?
All right, so here we go. That's the opening of your album, of the Waterloo album.
Yeah.
And that lick is so cool. You have it with a keyboard
It's
on
on
the
the electric
but
piano, yeah.
Play that lick again. It's a yeah, it's
It's a little dissonant.
Yeah,
into
yeah.
A little bit less dissonant.
Yes.
I think we may have identified a pattern here.
oh, yeah, well,
I haven't
well,
necessarily thought of it, but there's a lot of that, like, that's kind of ugly, and then
Yeah,
it slides
it's
into
wild.
something a little less tense. You know?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I stumbled onto those chords, and I was thinking about these three couples that I knew, and I changed the names, but I was thinking about them, and I watched them go through these ups and downs, and I was just like, I just had such a feeling. I was like pulling for them, you know. I'm like just really rooting for these couples that I know to kind of get through some rough times, and I came up with these other chords to kind of close up the chorus.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was written on guitar, then recorded on piano, and now mostly played on guitar again.
I see. I see.
Never know where it's going to end up in the studio.
Well, it's just so cool to have that line going, and then on top of you, those are some pretty wild things to put together, but you do them well, and this is even without the big great production that you do.
Thank
Just
you.
hearing it this way.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it at the beginning that it was kind of that the melody went.
Uh-huh,
The
right.
first two notes are. Seems
Right.
like one of them or more
Right.
is wrong.
Right.
Sarah never learned
Right.
to say goodbye. I
Right.
didn't realize that at first.
Right.
It took me. I was jamming with a friend of ours, and he said, "What's that melody?" I said,
Yeah.
"Hadn't thought of it yet." You know,
Right.
It seemed the right thing to do.
Well, and it's very dissonant. You got to admit.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It's a sort of turned upside down version of what we call the Jimi Hendrix chord.
oh,
But instead of these notes being separate, they're right next to each other. I learned that later, you know.
very cool.
Thank you.
And you use it. I mean, not a lot of people do. It's you have an ear for it, and it's all throughout your records. Very, very snazzy stuff.
Thank you.
Another interesting thing you do is your songs vary rhythmically so much. The styles. I mean, it's a lot of people could. You could have dissonant songs and they could all be in a similar groove.
Sure.
Yours are not. They'll go through different lighter grooves and then like Flags in the Way.
Sure.
You'll come on a record, with this electric stuff.
That
just
one turned out pretty
drive.
heavy.
It did.
It was originally written as quite a soft acoustic number.
Really?
But when it came time to make the record and where we were at as a band, that one was feeling like it wanted to go fight win or something. Like it was written like this. Almost like a samba or something.
Yeah. Interesting.
But when it came time to make the record, it became faster speed, and definitely a quite involved arrangement.
And that shift from that to the what I hear on the record would happen in the studio, or would you
Kind
ahead
of
of
slowly over the course of practices, we'd play a song in rehearsal, and I play with some amazing musicians. I'm really fortunate. We'd play it in rehearsal and just say like, "Is that working for you guys?" Because I feel like they're equal contributors to these arrangements and things, and I'd say, you know, I think that song wants to take off on us. It really wants to go. And we watch the tempos. If we notice that we're speeding up, we say, what happens if we go with it? Instead of trying to pull back and like, no, this song is 86 beats per minute. That's the way it is.
Okay.
We notice if it starts to pull, like, well, maybe let's follow that and see how it goes. Go with it instead of shutting it down. And so we're real open to like a song. If you catch us 2 weeks later, a song could have changed like drastically by then.
Very interesting. So then you're telling me also that you're not recording it to a click track?
We
Or
did.
you get guided by the click?
Yeah, we do for most reasons, like editing reasons.
Sure. Oh, yes.
And
Very
things.
practical.
Yeah, and usually I go in not wanting to do it,
Right.
and then I get talked into it by some very intelligent
By the engineers.
engineers and
Dang
producers.
engineers.
Yeah, and
They're
I'm
persuasive.
yeah, I like to have someone good helping me engineer and produce.
Right.
Hopefully one of each, because they can talk me out of some pretty crazy stuff, which is cool.
I don't know. What you end up with sometimes seems like some pretty crazy stuff, but it
Yeah.
works.
Thank you.
Shoot, you're giving me partial songs. You better just give me another piece of something.
Okay,
if you
well,
like.
yeah.
In fact,
let's
actually,
do-
here, I'll put you through that first. We'll come back around on that. First of all, since I'm not sure where we're on time, one thing I know I want to ask you is, for new songwriters or even veteran songwriters, would you have any advice?
Well, I think it's a different process for everyone, and it should be. But I mean, I know songwriters that get up in the morning and work on it for half an hour before work, or sit down for 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon, and say, I'm going to finish this, and this song today. I also know songwriters like myself that can write 3 songs in a day and then not write one for months. And so I think it's just kind of, you do have to work at it. You do have to try and push through some things sometimes, but just kind of stay comfortable with it, I think. I don't know. Try not to make it too much like work is one thing I would say. Unless, for you, that feeling of work is the thing that works for you. You know,
Gotcha.
so,
Gotcha.
yeah. I don't think there's any one way to do it, though.
The interesting what you just said about sometimes you'll write a few in a burst.
Oh, yeah.
That's an interesting thing. So when you are getting these bursts,
Yeah.
do you usually, will you do a song in one sitting or yes?
Can be.
So it can be.
Can be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The song that closed out my first album is called A Footnote to History. That was written on New Year's Day. One time I was waiting for a cab, just picked up a guitar, and it was done. Right then and there. Another time, I think I totaled out nearly 5 complete songs in 2 days. But I've also had unbelievable dry spells where,
Sure.
you're looking at the calendar and you're like, oh, there's that one new song, and then you realize you wrote it 4 months ago or
Right.
something, and you haven't really had a seed come to fruition since.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
I don't really know how to explain that.
Yeah.
But there's definitely bursts, and when they come, you better have a pencil and paper handy.
Yes.
At
All right.
least for
Okay.
me, yeah.
Which
Have
adds-
pencil and paper handy. That's good advice.
Okay, so always have that handy. Yeah. I've got a pen on me here.
Yeah. Carry around a little
Yes.
notebook.
No, that's very practical because I
Yeah.
often that would have been another thing I would have asked you.
Yeah.
As we're winding toward the end of the show, I wanted to ask you. I mean, let's just look at some of your lyrics.
Okay.
We'll just look at
This is like my biggest fear right now, looking at my lyrics.
Well, see, but the thing about your lyrics are, to me, they match your music.
Okay.
Because you don't write story songs. To me, you write impressionist lyrics because your music is like that. So to me, it matches.
Yeah.
For example, in the song Your Name, you have, I keep writing letters down till they spelled out the perfect name.
Yeah.
By the way, I love that as an opening line.
Thank
I think
you.
it's very cool.
Thank you. I labored over that song for 3 or 4 years
Really?
before I felt like it was ready to
Interesting.
produce
See?
for consumption.
So sometimes they can take that long.
Yeah, and there'd be
Interesting.
6-9 months at a time where I'd just be like, I don't want to look at that song right now.
Sure,
I can't
sure.
think about it. Come back to it later. But yeah, that's a line that has a pretty strong impression or image
I agree.
to it. it's kind of a family thing. That's that song. So sort of about learning about my father and his like his kind of identity and things, and sort of wondering questions, answers, you know. But it's meant to be not super specific.
Gotcha. Because in that same song,
Yeah.
you have, quote, all repeat offenders waltz past the gavel into outer space.
Forgot about that
I
line.
forgot about that. And you have all the fast-fed armies. Now, I've heard of fast food, but I have not heard the term fast fed.
Yeah,
I loved it.
It fed. All the fast-fed armies have crashed the party and trashed the place. I think it was just like that second verse is kind of me referencing the fact that, I mean, everyone's going through some stuff. Everyone's got things to work on with family or love or whatever. And in the meantime, like, there's a whole world of things that we could be working on, like, as humanity.
Yeah.
And I think some of those things might be getting away from us. So.
Well, what's getting away from us is time.
Okay.
Thomas Paul, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We've had Thomas's website flashing on the set somewhere, I'm sure.
Cool.
Why don't you take us out with another song there, my friend?
Let's play that one. I keep writing letters down till they spell out perfect name. I'm gonna do that right this time.
It's all right.
One that shines like all the high gloss models on a shiny page. Elementary senders all getting sawed off on lidocaine. But I keep writing letters down till they spell out